Um, oh. All righty, I'll start again. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my kitchen in Vermont. And for those of you who aren't familiar with me, I taught many cooking classes when I lived in Michigan for Oriana. I also worked in the store. And then we started going virtual and I started teaching virtual classes. And last year I moved to Vermont and they still would like me to teach classes and I would love to teach classes. And so it's really fun to teach you guys in wherever you are. You could be in Vermont as well. And you get to sit in your kitchen and I get to be in my kitchen or your living room or wherever you're watching. And I get to cook with you. So this menu is actually, usually my cooking classes, I'm like overly ambitious. I get it done, but I'm feeling very frantic, trying to get everything done. This one is really, I believe you could do this in an hour, no problem. I kept it really simple, but yet comforting. And the theme was vegan, so we went with vegan. Nowadays you can get so many vegan mac and cheeses. I mean, Annie's even makes a vegan mac and cheese. I'm sure Kraft does too. Not that I've bought Kraft mac and cheese in a while, but this one's really nice. It's different. It's not using fake cheeses. I don't have anything against fake cheeses, but if you feel like topping this mac and cheese with another kind of cheese, a fake cheese, I guess we could say, feel free. So anyway, we're going to do a Caesar salad. We're going to do a mac and cheese, and then we're going to do a chocolate pudding, chocolate mousse type dessert. So I just want to get my pan going to get my water up and turn my oven on. Okay, and feel free, if there are any questions, Libby can just ask me or you can ask me. Oh, I see there's one here. I am in Northfield in Vermont. Someone asked where I am in Vermont, so which is right a little bit south of Montpelier, for those of you who are somewhat familiar with Vermont. And I actually work at the co-op, the Hunger Mountain Co-op in Montpelier, now that I'm living in Vermont. So, okay, so let's get started. And the first thing I think I want to do is I want to get my pasta going. And I'm going to get my sauce going for that. And then while that's working, I can work on my dressing for my salad and the dessert. So what I like to kind of do when I'm teaching is not just run through the recipe and, and just cook for you. I really love to teach you little tips and little tricks to make your cooking more enjoyable in your own kitchen. And one of them is learning how to organize yourself. So I've always, when I've taught in-person classes, I always tell people the most important thing to do before you start cooking is take your recipe and read the recipe before you start cooking. Because there's nothing worse than reading a recipe and seeing that you were supposed to have soaked this, or you were supposed to have chilled this ahead of time. And you're in the spot and you're cooking and you can't do that. For example, in this recipe, we soaked the cashews ahead of time. So if you have a really high powered blender, you probably don't have to soak cashews, but I don't. So I have to soak my cashews to make them softer. Just an example. So the other thing I like to teach is how to multitask or how to arrange if you're going to make 3 things, or 4 things or 5 things. How to organize yourself so that while one thing is cooking, you can be doing another thing. Because that's a much more efficient way to be cooking instead of just working down the list and then standing around waiting for something while you could be doing something else. And that really comes from, for me, that comes from working in restaurants for years. That's where I learned a lot of the skills about multitasking, because in restaurants, you don't stand around and not do anything ever. Your knife is always going. I always say, if you can talk in the kitchen, but you have to keep chopping. So anyway, enough talking from me. Let me get a little bit of stuff going here. So my pasta water is coming up. And so I chose to use for my macaroni, I chose to use fusillis. You can do whatever macaroni you want to use. If you want to use traditional elbows, if you want to do shells, whatever macaroni you like. So that's what I chose for my mac and cheese. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start on the sauce. So like I said, I've got the cashews soaking. So they're really soft right now. I just did it for an hour or two, maybe. It's really quick. You can do it overnight if you want, but I would suggest to keep them in the fridge if you're going to do it overnight. Just keeping them out, they may just get really too slimy because you don't really have to soak them for very long. So I'm going to just drain the water off. I have
a question about those.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I feel like most vegan cheese bases start with cashews, but do you like to use any other nuts?
I always use cashews because they're the softest. So they blend up really creamy. You probably could use almost any other nut. Although I think walnuts, you can make a walnut cream. The other thing I think, I'm thinking like walnuts and pecans have a definite stronger flavor also. Cashews are very mellow. So besides the creamy fat factor of the nut, I think they kind of just, to lack of a better word, they're like the chicken of the nuts. In other words, chicken really doesn't have much flavor till you do something to it. So cashews also a very mild flavor. So a lot of other nuts, I think, would overpower a sauce, which wouldn't be a bad thing, if you wanted that flavor. But I think the cashews just give it sort of a neutral palate. I've seen it done with like macadamia nuts, but that's really expensive. So if you want to make macadamia nut macaroni and cheese, go for it.
What about almonds?
Almonds you probably could do. And I would probably want to use blanched almonds though, because the skins on the almonds wouldn't make a really nice creamy sauce. So if you either blanch them yourself, they would probably be a really nice sauce. But what with the difference with almonds is if you don't have a really high powered blender, it's going to be a lot of work for your blender to blend them up. So that would be the big difference. The cashews are just so soft that they really break up. I'm actually going to do this with an immersion blender because I don't have my high powered blender with me. I could do it in the food processor also. But I love my immersion blender. That's like the one gadget I bought that I absolutely just love to use. So let's go and get the cashews going. And so this is my handy dandy immersion blender. And if you don't have one, I highly, highly recommend it. They're less than $50. I think this was like $25 or $35. And I use this for everything, for salad dressings, for sauces, for pureeing soup, for making mac and cheese sauce. Comes with this little, you could make smoothies in this, I guess. But it's also really handy to use as like a mini blender. I love this because I've made soups in blenders for years before I had this, and you have to worry about the soup being too hot and it exploding out of the blender, and it's dangerous and scary. So I highly encourage an immersion blender if you don't have one already, or a hand blender, they call it. All right, so I'm going to put my ingredients in my little blender here. So it won't quite be as creamy as if you have a really, really high powered blender, but I'm okay with that. Because like I said, I don't have my blender with me. So I've got my cashews in there, and then I'm going to get my other ingredients. I am going to use almond milk. You could really use any, you could use water. You could use any non-dairy milk that you wanted. And if you aren't vegan, you could use any milk that you wanted. I probably would stay away from a really strong flavor milk. Like this is the original unsweetened milk. Oat milk would be nice because that would give it a little thicker creaminess. Coconut milk, if you love the coconut flavor, you could use that. But again, it would definitely have more of a flavor to it. So then I get my spices, pull them over so we can see each other. Got my little prep department. See what I got here. Garlic, onion, salt, and pepper. Little Dijon. Okay, and my pasta water is going, so I'm going to throw the pasta in there. Salted. Always salt our pasta water because that's the chance that you get to the pasta to get some flavor before we put our sauce on it. Because yes, whatever we cook in also gives it flavor. So putting my salt in, putting my pasta in, give it a little stir, get it moving around, and come back to you. Okay, so pull my recipe up here. So I'm going to be good and I'm going to measure. So I'm going to add my milk. And I am doing half the recipe today because my tiny little blender, and that's part of it. So I'm going to go ahead and get my milk in there. And then my spices. So we're going to use some garlic powder. And you could use fresh garlic if you want. I just like the way the garlic powder dissolves into it. And then a little bit of onion powder. The secret cheese for that all vegans love. And I'm going to use my nutritional yeast. So nutritional yeast, some people say it gives it that cheesy flavor. I guess you could say cheesy, but I feel like that leads to expectations of something tasting like cheese. And it doesn't taste like cheese. It just gives it kind of that richness, that saltiness, that umami that cheese gives you. So that's why you tend to see it a lot of times in recipes where you might have cheese. So I'm going to add a good amount of nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast also is a really good source of B12. So for vegans who don't eat any animal products, getting B12 can sometimes be a challenge. So nutritional yeast is a good way to get it. Okay. A little Dijon mustard. And a little chili powder. You could use chili powder. You could use smoked paprika. Just want a little bit of heat and a little bit of that sort of smoky chili-esque flavor. You could use a combination of the two if you want. I'm just going to go with the chili powder here. All right, did I get everything? I think I got everything. I'm just going to give my pasta a stir. All right. Let's give this a nice little see, it's so handy. And if you have any questions, type them in because I can't really hear you if you were to ask one right now. All right, I'm just gonna pull it out for a minute. And I want to give it a little stir to see if it's loosened up from the bottom. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, even because the cashews are so creamy, that little blender, it creamed them up. They're nice and creamy. I don't feel any chunkiness in there. So I'm gonna just give it another little stir, and then I'm gonna give it a taste. See how we're doing. Right. Take this out. Okay, just gonna give it a little taste. See how it tastes.
We had a question in the chat, which I think you may have answered, but could you skip the soaking step if you had a Vitamix blender?
Yes, yes. If you have a Vitamix,
Yeah.
you do not have to soak them. But if you just have a regular blender or a hand blender, even if you have a pretty, if you have a pretty strong food processor, you can probably skip the soaking part. But yeah, soaking will just make it go quicker. And I realized I did not put salt in, and because I tasted it and I said, whoa, I need salt. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some salt in there. And I feel like it needs a little bit more zing. So, and again, this is your personal taste. When you taste it, you'll decide what it needs. I want to add a little more mustard because I love mustard. And I'm going to add a little more chili powder because I feel like it needs a little kick. Second, check my pasta again. Want to make sure it stays at a nice boil. And yeah. Okay, I'm going to give the sauce another little zing here. Okay, give it another little taste. I like it. Okay. All right, so my sauce is all made. Check on my pasta again. Okay, not yet. But what I'm gonna do is I want to make a little breadcrumb topping for it because I think that'll be really nice when it goes in the oven. It'll get all crispy. So I put my skillet here. It's gonna be really, really quick. I just made some breadcrumbs earlier. How do you make breadcrumbs? You take some bread, you throw it in your food processor, or you can even just rip it up if you want, chop it up. And then I put it in the oven to just sort of dry out just by itself for maybe 10 minutes. Didn't want to get any color on it, just dried it out. You could certainly use panko if you have breadcrumbs, but it's so easy to just take the bread you have and make it into breadcrumbs. But I want to give it a little more flavor. So this is just plain bread. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat some, you could use vegan butter, you could use olive oil. Just going to heat it up in a skillet with a little bit of fresh thyme, and then throw the breadcrumbs in. And then when we put the pasta in the oven, we're gonna have a nice little crunchy topping for it. So, okay. Just checking the pasta again and getting my oven. Oops, turned my oven off instead of turning it on. There we go. There we go. Okay. So I'm gonna put a little bit of vegan butter in my skillet. And again, you can use olive oil if you want. All right, and I think I'm going to use a little fresh thyme just to give it some nice flavor. And with the pasta, I do want to undercook it a little bit because we're going to put it in the oven and bake it. If you were going to do a stovetop mac and cheese, you could just cook it as you would cook it. But because the sauce needs to warm up, we're going to cook it in the oven. So, and plus then you get the crunchy breadcrumbs on top, which is the best part anyway. All right, getting close. Pasta's pretty close, which is good because my butter's melted. Now I'm going to toss my breadcrumbs, which are right next to me, in the pan. And just a little fresh thyme. I'm sorry, dried thyme, not fresh thyme. Okay. And we're good. I'm just going to toss the breadcrumbs around. And I don't really need to cook them too much. I just want to get them have a little bit of the oil, a little bit of the, when I can smell the thyme and it's warming up. Because then when I put them in the oven, that's when they'll do their browning. So it's really just to give it a little bit of the oil and just give it a little bit more flavor. And I am going to do a little salt and pepper on them too. Also realized I didn't put pepper. I don't think I put pepper. Oh yeah, I did put pepper. I just didn't put it in. The sauce, I'm going to do that as well. Add a little bit of pepper because I love pepper to my mac and cheese sauce. Right. So my breadcrumbs, just a little bit of, like I said, a little bit of oil, just maybe a pat of the vegan butter or teaspoon of oil, just to kind of give them a little bit. So when you do put them on top, they'll brown. All right.
Allie, do you have a favorite vegan butter brand?
Yes and no. If I was going to eat my bread with vegan butter, I love Miyoko's, but it's pretty pricey. So I don't think I would use that to, in a large quantity. But Earth Balance is really good for cooking. I really like Earth Balance. I find that it's, it just really works well in most recipes when you're substituting the butter portion of it, and it's a little bit more reasonable. But if you're having like really good bread and you want some really good vegan butter, treat yourself to Miyoko's. And there's so many out there now too that I probably don't even know about, but those are my two that I kind of my go-tos. Okay, so I'm gonna just step over here where you can't see me at my sink, and I'm gonna just drain my pasta. And then I'm going to go ahead and just put the sauce right in my pot here. And then I'm going to transfer it to my container that's going to go into the oven. Let's take my sauce. See, so easy, so easy. You can even make the sauce ahead of time if you wanted to, and then just bake it up. So there's my mac and cheese, and now it's going into my little casserole dish. Try to bring it over here. I don't think, can we maybe see it? I can't really tilt it. And then we're gonna go ahead. And put my breadcrumbs on top. Oh, that's gonna be so good. There we go. And now it goes in the oven. Set my timer so I remember. 'Cause what happens is once I start talking, I forget I have something in the oven. So we have to set the timer. Okay. Okay, so we're good. All right, so now move some of my mess away. We're gonna go ahead and make our salad dressing. This is definitely not very difficult, this salad dressing. But it's a really nice, I think, vegan Caesar. So let me go ahead and grab some of my ingredients and bring them over to my little station here. Mayonnaise. All right. So for the dressing, I'm actually going to use, I saved this the other day because I love keeping my dressing in old mayonnaise containers if I'm using mayonnaise, or old jars. This one had a little bit of mayonnaise left in it. So I was like, well, I'm going to make the salad dressing, because then you put everything in there, you just shake it up, and then you have your salad dressing. So we're going to go ahead and make the dressing. And what I'm going to use for this, typically Caesar dressings have anchovies in them. So obviously vegan dressing, we're not going to use anchovies because anchovies are fish. So what I use to kind of get that salty funkiness that you get from anchovies is capers, because they're very salty, but they also have this really interesting deep flavor. And I'm using the umami word again, but that's really what it is. It's sort of that mouthfeel, that just satisfying feeling. So I'm going to go ahead and take out, I could use my immersion blender for this to just sort of blend it. Actually, I think I might do that. So I'm going to just rinse it off here. You could also do this in a blender if you wanted to, or you could use a whisk. What I was going to say is if I was going to use a whisk, I probably would want to chop up my capers a little bit finer so that they would actually emulsify into the dressing. So let's just make sure. No, I can't fit it in there. So we're not going to use that jar with the immersion blender. I'll just rinse out my mac and cheese container, and then I'll transfer it. Okay, so we're going to add some capers. And the nice thing about this dressing is you make a whole bunch and it's good for a while. You can keep it, like you keep any salad dressing. You can keep it in the fridge and then you have your salad dressing made. Okay, and then we're going to do some garlic because it's a Caesar salad. And again, I don't have to worry too much about how fine I'm chopping it because I'm putting it in with my immersion blender. Okay. Okay, and then we're going to do our vegan mayo. Measuring cups. Trying to be really good in measure. I don't always measure when I make things for myself, but okay. Vegan mayo. Then we're gonna just add a little bit of water.
Okay, next up on the brand questions, what is
Yes.
your favorite vegan mayo brand?
Vegenaise. I really do like Vegenaise. It's like, it's the original, and
Classic.
I really like it. That's typically the one that I buy. Again, I haven't tried a ton of other ones. But that one just works for me. So, and it's funny, but I think actually, even Hellman's has a vegan mayo now. I've not tried it. And Hellman's used to be my favorite mayo. They came out with an organic one, I was very excited when I used regular mayo, and I still use regular mayo. I mean, I still use
Megan,
mayo sometimes, but they came out with a vegan mayo, and I hope it's good because, you know, they sell a lot of mayonnaise. So, okay, then I'm going to add some lemon juice. And what I do in my dressing here is I will add lemon juice and I will add vinegar. And that's a trick that you could use in any of your salad dressings. And I hope you're all making your own salad dressings because that is buying salad dressing. It's so expensive. It's got so much stuff in it that you don't really need. And it's just so easy to make salad dressings. But one of the things I really like is to have 2 different acids in my salad dressing. So if I use lemon and apple cider vinegar, lemon and white wine vinegar, lime and rice vinegar, doesn't matter. I just find that when I have the 2, it just adds another depth and another layer because acid really is kind of like the magic bullet for making things taste good. All right, get another bit of lemon because I definitely like a good amount of acid in my dressings. Okay. And you could do Caesars with either traditionally romaine lettuce, or you could do a mix of romaine and kale, or you could do all kale. Typically in the winter, if I'm making a salad, I like to do a kale salad because, first of all, lettuce is ridiculously expensive right now. I mean, everything's pretty expensive, and it's, you know, the fresh greens in the summer are wonderful, but kale is pretty much solid all year. I mean, obviously it's much better when everything's much better when it's in season, but the kale that you can usually get in the winter, it'll make a nice Caesar salad. But I love to do in the summer. I'll work while I talk because I'm doing that, not working while I'm talking. My red wine vinegar. What I love to do in the summer is I will get a romaine lettuce and I'll cut it in half and take each half and put it onto either a grill pan or on your backyard grill. And you grill the romaine just on the one side for, I don't know, a minute or 2 just to get nice grill marks. Then you put your salad dressing on. So good. So good. Grilled Caesar. People think grilled lettuce. That just sounds really weird, but it's really delicious. So that's a summertime tip to look forward to. Although if you have a grill pan, you could do that in your kitchen, like when it's not summer. So there you go. Okay. And once again, our good friend nutritional yeast is going to make an appearance in our Caesar dressing. Because again, typically Parmesan cheese in Caesar salad. And again, I'm not saying, and you know, there are imitation Parmesan cheeses out there now. So you can do that as well. But I think it's kind of fun just to make from what you have. It's also a lot less expensive to make from what you have. Okay. Definitely a lot of pepper for Caesar salads. And I'm gonna do a little bit of salt, not as much salt because we have the capers, but gotta have salt. Okay. And olive oil. Go ahead, add my oil. And my timer is going off for my pasta, so I'm gonna check on it. And then I will buzz my dressing. Nobody got hurt. Ooh, it looks so good. But I'm gonna give it another 5 minutes. So good. The breadcrumbs are browning. It's beautiful. Okay. Go ahead, give my dressing a buzz. It's my boyfriend's phone. You should have it on silence. I've got a class. Okay, let me give my dressing a taste. Tastes like Caesar dressing. So it should definitely, when you taste salad dressing, the way I teach people to taste salad dressing usually is that you want to taste it with lettuce or what you're going to eat it with. And I'm tasting it with a spoon because I know when I taste it with a spoon, it's going to taste a lot more puckery and more vinegary. But I know that when I put that on lettuce, it's going to be fine. Because what a lot of people will do is they'll make their salad dressing and they'll taste it and they'll be like, ooh, no, it's too tart. I need to add this. And then when you put it on your salad, it's too bland. So you can learn to taste it with a spoon and say, okay, it tastes tart, but Allie said it'll be good on lettuce. But I find that it's just easier when you're first making your salad dressing, just taste it with a piece of lettuce. And that way you'll get a better feel for how it tastes, what you need to add, what you don't need to add. I think this tastes delicious. So once again, I'm gonna, just because I really like, I tell you, the capers really add a little magic to it. It just gives it that saltiness that salt by itself won't give you. I just like shaking my salad dressing. I don't know. I'm weird. All right. So let me check on, I gave it like 5 more minutes and I think I have like 2 left. I'm going to check on our macaroni and then we're going to make dessert. And look at this. I can't see the clock, but I'm guessing we're making good time here.
You're in great shape. Got 20 minutes to be exact.
Oh, awesome. Time for lots of questions. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So there you go. That's our delicious mac and cheese. Again, just the simple, easy sauce and the breadcrumbs, and we're golden. So I'm going to leave it over here on the stovetop. I cannot wait for dinner tonight.
I don't have a question, but I guess I have a comment. I feel like, it's very common in vegan cooking to use nutritional yeast, but I did not know what it is. Do you know like the process?
You know what? About a week ago, when I was working on the recipes for the class, I said, you know what? I always get asked in the classes when I would teach in person, the same thing would happen. I always get asked what nutritional yeast is. And I always look it up right before the class and then I proceed to forget it.
Well, I just looked it up. I have Google on my phone right now.
Correct?
Yeah. So basically you take regular bread yeast and you culture it in a nutrient medium. So I'm assuming that's why it's nutritional yeast. And then when the yeast is ready, it's deactivated with heat and harvested, washed, dried, and packaged into the flakes. But there's a couple of different varieties you can get it into, but I've only seen flakes and we only sell flakes at Oriana. But yeah, it's deactivated, decultured yeast, but so delicious, so yummy.
Yeah, our co-op actually sells it in the more traditional, very fine powder. And then they also sell it in the larger flake. So they have the 2 varieties. But it used to be called, back in the olden days, when hippie cooking first came out and Oriana was first in existence, it was called brewer's yeast. And that was like the old name for nutritional yeast, I believe. And so occasionally you can still see, like if you look at old cookbooks, like old, like Moose would probably, Diet for a Small Planet, maybe the original kind of vegetarian cookbooks. My guess is they probably would call it brewer's yeast. And I believe it's the same thing. So, and maybe brewers used it for whatever process they were brewing. I don't know what you would use it for. I mean, you don't use it when you make beer, as far as I know, but maybe it was a byproduct.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
Is a byproduct of the brewing process. Yeah. Interesting. But
well, now we know
for us too. I mean, it does. It has it has B12. Some people who are not even vegan, absolutely love it on popcorn. People, I personally don't really like it on popcorn. I think it's too strong on popcorn. I would rather put like vegan butter on my popcorn. I'm really simple. Like I like the way the corn and the butter taste, but nutritional yeast, I like that as a flavoring in a sauce, but I don't like it on my popcorn, but call me weird. But a lot of people do like it on their popcorn. So you could try that too.
On popcorn, I just air pop it and then I put some olive oil, drizzle just a little olive oil and some salt. And that's my favorite.
Yeah, yeah. You know, but people really do like the nutritional yeast on there. So, you know, for what it's worth. And I feel really lucky I got a ripe avocado because for our dessert, we are going to make chocolate pudding with an avocado. Weird, but delicious and nutritious because it's an avocado, right? So I'm going to go ahead. Oh, the other thing we could do, but I didn't think I really needed to show you, was for the Caesar salad, because traditionally you have croutons for Caesar salad. So what I'm going to do, if we have time, I'll do it, but I'd rather make the chocolate pudding. I have from that loaf of bread that I made our breadcrumbs from, I just left a couple in cubes. And so what I do with this, you could do it two ways to make your croutons, is you can toss them in oil, throw them in the oven for 15 minutes, and you have croutons. Personally, I like my croutons to be really oily, for lack of a better word. So I tend to do it on the stovetop. And so I'll put my oil in the pan, and then I'll put my bread in, and I'll toss them around, I'll toss them around, I'll toss them around, and they'll get crispy that way. So either way is fine. But again, croutons, you don't need to buy croutons. Everyone knows you have plenty of stale bread at home. And anytime you have bread left over, just chop it up. And if you can't make the croutons right away, throw it in the freezer, and then you can just make croutons sometimes. So that's what we'll do if we have time. But I think everyone wants to have chocolate pudding. So we're going to do that. So got my avocado. I'm going to scoop that into my food processor, my little baby food processor that I have here. And this is such a simple recipe. You'll be like, wow, that's like easier than opening the box of chocolate pudding and having to cook it on the stove. All you need is the food processor. And again, if you have a Vitamix, you could do this in your Vitamix, I'm sure. Get my little recipes here. Okay, so for this, we're using not very many ingredients. We've got some cocoa, some maple syrup, and some vanilla. And because I love peanut butter, we're going to put some peanut butter in there too. So go ahead and add my maple syrup. So I'm measuring with my mind. And then a little bit of vanilla extract. Oh, I haven't opened this one yet. I'm like, why is it not twisting? There's the plastic still on here. Oops, let me just get a little thing to open it. Got a fresh one the other day. I have not opened it. Okay, little dash of vanilla. Let me give a second dash. A little sticky from the maple syrup. Second. Okay, and then we need to add our cocoa powder. Okay, so I got everything in there, and salt. Because you always, even when you're making something sweet, you always want to have a little bit of salt there because it actually helps balance it out. Not make it salty, but just balance the flavors out. So I'm going to add a nice little pinch of salt in there. And we're going to start with that. And then I'm going to work in my peanut butter. And the peanut butter is optional. And again, you can use any nut butter you want. Depending on the ripeness of the avocado that you use, if you use really ripe avocados, which is fine. It's kind of like bananas. When you get the really, really ripe bananas, they have more of a flavor to them. So they'll be more overpowering. So with chocolate pudding, you don't necessarily want to taste avocados. So the less ripe avocados will have less of a strong flavor. So if you happen to get a ripe avocado, you can still use it. But what the nut butter will do, besides make it taste delicious, is kind of neutralize. So you don't feel like you're eating avocado chocolate pudding. And if you don't have a problem with avocado chocolate pudding, then that's fine. But some people just go like, really? That seems weird. So anyway, I don't think it seems weird. So go ahead. It has to be plugged in. I still have my immersion blender plugged in. I'm like, why isn't it not going? Okay. I'm just gonna let that go for a minute. Get my little spatula to scrape it down. This is a tiny little baby food processor, but it works just fine. Ooh, it looks like chocolate pudding. Okay, give it a little taste. Because this avocado was not really ripe, overripe, I can bet you nobody will know that there is avocado in there. But because like I said, I love peanut butter and chocolate together, I am going to put just a spoonful of peanut butter in there. And then give it another whirl. And then, just to be kind of fancy, I've got a couple strawberries. I didn't happen to get any whipped cream. That'd be really nice on this too. It's a nice little dollop of whipped cream, but we're just gonna take a couple strawberries that are sadly out of season, but you know, I wanted it to kind of be pretty. All right. Oh, this looks so good. Okay, I'm gonna put it in a little bowl so it looks really pretty for you.
This would also be a great, like, healthy Valentine's Day dessert too. Like, perfect for Valentine's Day.
Perfect. And I
Hitting
put it in
all
my
the marks.
glass jars so you can
Yes.
see.
Oh, perfect. Also, Megan, I see you guys cooking over there. How's it going?
So far, so good. We're saving the mac and cheese.
Oh, we have cook-alongs? Awesome.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Look at
adventure.
that.
I
So
give you
far, so
major
good.
props. Cook along with me because I'm so like all over.
Did you do any prep before?
We didn't do the mac and cheese, but we did the
Okay.
salad stuff, and we're doing the dessert, and we have everything
Nice.
else for the mac and cheese that we'll make when we're all done with the class.
I
Oh,
love that.
awesome. Oh, I'm so excited.
Then our husbands get to eat it with us.
Oh,
Nice.
that's sweet.
All right, so I'm just pulling out the last of this. And this will probably be for the two of us, not this entire thing for one, but you really could eat the whole thing because it's avocados. It's so good for you. Oh, I missed the bowl on that one. All right, let's clean my hands. So we've got our chocolate pudding with our pretty strawberries. How good is that? Just lots of strawberries on there, but I am really looking forward to dessert. That came out so good. I seem surprised, but I'm not surprised. I just haven't actually made that in a while. It was one of the desserts when I did teach the in-person cooking classes. I taught quite a few vegan cooking classes over when the classes were in the church kitchen. And vegan chocolate pudding, I mean, there's a ton of recipes out there. I love this one for the simplicity. There's ones with like coconut cream and all sorts of other things that you need lots of kitchen appliances for. And really all you need for this is a blender or a food processor. And you have like delicious chocolate pudding. And I swear, like, give this to little kids and don't tell them there's avocado in there. And I don't think they'll be able to guess. Or even big kids. Anyway, that's all the food. So I did make a salad. So not that you needed to see. I do have a salad. And like I said, we have our croutons and we have our delightful salad dressing. So we really have a whole meal here. And even with my talking and going off on tangents, it took less than an hour. So you really can throw this together. And like I said, if you wanted, make the sauce a couple days ahead of time. And that way you have like mac and cheese. I mean, I think based on what's in the sauce, you probably could keep that in the fridge for as long as you could keep a salad dressing in there. Because there's really, nothing in there. Once you have the nuts and you keep them in the fridge, they're going to be just fine. You could also, if you want to bulk up the veggie quality of it, what I do a lot of the time when I make mac and cheese is I roast some broccoli and I throw broccoli in with my mac and cheese, or I'll put the broccoli on the side, but I usually have broccoli in my mac and cheese. What you also could do is you can take pureed carrots or sweet potatoes and mix them in, and that way you get that real orange color. If you're kind of feeling nostalgic for Kraft mac and cheese, the carrots and the sweet potatoes will give a little bit more sweetness, but they'll also give it that color. So there's a couple of other little tips. Any other questions? No questions? All right.
Oops, sorry, I was muted. We had one more question, we have one question from the chat. How long can you usually keep a homemade dressing in the fridge?
As long as you keep your non-homemade dressings in the fridge. I mean, really, oil, because you're basing them, well, let me take that back. A vegan dressing. If you were going to make a buttermilk dressing with yogurt or milk, obviously the dairy would not last as long without the preservatives in them that you would get from a bottle dressing. But if you're basically basing your dressing on oils or nuts and you're refrigerating them, you could keep them for weeks, probably months, but I would say at least weeks you could keep them. I always have my basic salad dressing in the fridge, which is olive oil, lemon juice, some kind of vinegar, maple syrup, and Dijon mustard. And that's kind of like I always have that in, that's my like go-to salad dressing. So yeah, you can totally keep that in your fridge. Another really great salad dressing, real easy vegan salad dressing, and you can also use it as a sauce if you make it thicker, is a little tahini, lemon, and maple syrup. And then you thin that with water to the consistency that you want. So if you want a salad dressing, you put a lot more because you don't really need the oil factor because the tahini is the oil factor. So using that as your base. But I tend to use that more as a sauce. So I'll keep it a little thicker and then drizzle it on rice or quinoa or vegetables. And it's just a really delicious, easy sauce or dressing.
We
I
gotta have you.
often,
Oh,
excuse me.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I make my own hummus and I
Mhm.
often put a nice dollop of hummus in a salad dressing. And it just gives it some extra pizzazz.
Oh, absolutely. And the creaminess factor too. Yeah, that's a great trick to do with, yeah, just putting hummus in there. Cause yeah, you're and great for making your own hummus. Cause that's another thing. It's like, why are we buying hummus? It's so easy to make. It's like 4 ingredients if you have a food processor. And you can customize it how you want. So bravo to you.
Allie in the chat suggested we have you back for a salad dressing class, which I absolutely agree for. I'm already feeling inspired based on what you're saying. Chuck Mueller had a question about
Chuck?
yeah, he's in the crowd. Chuck is a Oriana board member. Do you have a recipe for an avocado vegan cheesecake? Which sounds very interesting and fun.
Ooh, I don't, but I want one.
I know, me too.
That sounds really good. Yeah,
know.
no, I don't, but I will Google one after. Because I didn't know avocado cheesecake was a thing, but that would, I mean, I guess, is it a savory cheesecake? I would think it's a savory cheesecake, but maybe it could be a sweet cheesecake. I don't
Yeah.
know. But
Good.
oh, if you could do it like with the chocolate pudding, avocado-ish base, it probably could be a raw cheesecake then. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to think on that, but it sounds delicious.
I'm thinking cashews would be involved maybe
Yeah.
too, but yeah.
Mm.
Well, are there any more questions? If not, we can wrap up. We're getting some applauses from the group. Also, thank you.
Nice.
I left 2 links in the chat here that I'll send out with a follow-up email as well. But if you want to take any more Oriana cooking classes, Allie has 1 more class this series. It's easy weeknight dinner ideas. There's the Eventbrite link there. You can sign up right now. And then there's also a class feedback form. We're looking to constantly improve our programming. And if you have any class ideas or feedback for Allie or praise for Allie, of course, you can fill out that form there. That will also be linked in a follow-up email. But thank you everyone for joining us tonight.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to follow up with me, you can go through me or you could go through Oriana. If you have questions that came up after, or you want to know if I have a recipe for something else, feel free to email me, or you can message me on Facebook and Instagram, Healthy Chef Allie. So yeah, it was great to see you guys virtually, wherever you are. And we're getting a deep freeze here for the next couple of days. So wherever you are, if you are getting the deep freeze, stay warm and make some mac and cheese.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye.